Hey, Nathan. Nathan.
Yeah. Hey, Amanda, what's up?
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm reading the Accelerate State of DevOps report. I have the latest copy right here in my hands. That's what we're here to do today, right? So shall we get started? The executive summary.
So, Nathan, can I just pause?
Yeah.
I know how much you love the State of DevOps report. I mean, you're a co-author, but could I just see it for a second? Could I take a look at it?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Here you go.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. So I know you wanted to read from this, and that would be awesome. But I've got kind of an idea for maybe we do something a little bit different today.
Wait, Amanda. This is not what we rehearsed. What's going on here?
I know, but see, one of the key findings from the 2022 report was that context matters. And I know you had planned to just kind of read out, kind of the highlights from the report. But I thought instead, why don't we bring the report to life with story time?
Okay. I guess I could do that, but here's the thing. As long as it's clear to you and to me and to, everyone out there watching that this story, all names, characters, incidents portrayed in this production are fictitious. No identification with actual persons, living or deceased, places, buildings, or products is intended or should be inferred.
Absolutely. And, also no animals or maybe cartoon characters were harmed in the telling of this story. So, Nathan, I have found that teams that are really eager to transform, they've usually gone through something that made them really want to prevent that in the future, right? They've kind of felt some pain.
Yes.
So I thought for today's story time, we could talk about Log4Shell.
Oh.
Do you remember that gift that you received in December of 2021?
Yeah. A gift. I'm not sure I would call it that, but yes.
All right. So let's go back. If you can do this, take a second. Go back to December 10th, 2021. And is it okay with you if I kind of take some notes on a whiteboard while we relive this story?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So where were you when you heard about Log4Shell?
Okay, well, first of all, if I recall correctly, that was a Friday. So I was, looking forward to a pretty lightweight day at work. After all, hashtag no deploy Fridays. We're strong practitioners of that where I am. And, it was the holiday season, so I'm sure I had some holiday shopping to do.
All right. So if I got this correctly, pretty much this is how your Friday was looking like, right? It looks kind of the Friday I want to have. Yes,
that is exactly right. But then things changed. Everything changed. Actually, would you hold my coffee?
Oh, absolutely. So walk me through it. You started here. You heard about the CVE. Then what happened?
Yeah, that is what happened. We heard about the CVE, but it was immediately the 5 stages of grief. Denial. I mean, I heard about it on Twitter. How bad could it actually be? And then anger. Yeah, in fact, this is a real issue. But then some bargaining came in. Look, I mean, it's a bug in the logging software, and it's a Friday. I'm sure that can wait until Monday. But then depression set in because, in fact, I realized that we were going to have to resolve this issue and quick. And eventually acceptance. I accepted the idea that we were going to have a long weekend. And I declared myself the incident commander, fired up a new room in Slack so that we could all manage this incident together.
Wow, I feel like I just rode a roller coaster with you. So clearly, I thought this was going to be kind of a straight line timeline, but now I'm feeling like you just took me on this incredible journey. What happened next?
Well, what happened next was I picked up the phone, called home and said another CVE was going to change virtually everything about my weekend plans. So then I went to one of my favorite tools, the OODA loop. You know the OODA loop?
I know you love the OODA loop, but I always forget what the D stands for. Can you remind me?
Right. The OODA loop. So OODA, observe, orient, decide, and act. Observe. Well, we had already done that bit. We observed there was a vulnerability. Now we had to orient ourselves. Where were we impacted? How many of our production systems were going to be victim to this particular vulnerability? Then we had to decide what to do. Well, actually, the decision was pretty easy. We were going to remediate the vulnerability. And then we had to act, get to work.
All right. So that when you oriented to figuring out what systems were impacted, how many production systems were impacted?
Yeah. So at the company I'm working at, remember, it's a fictional story. The place I'm working, we had, in production, we had about 400 different systems, 400 different applications. And we knew that most of them were likely impacted.
Wow. 400. That's 400 gifts in that December, right? I mean, how long did it take you to assess all of these gifts?
Oh, you know what, man? I just heard about the software supply chain and some of the amazing tools on the main stage. And I tell you what, the process was really easy for us. We went right to our SBOMs, the software bill of materials. And this told us with some quick queries exactly which systems were impacted and which ones we needed to remediate. It even helped us prioritize which ones should we fix first. So all in, just a couple of minutes to figure all that out.
Really? I mean, that's like amazing. So then if that only took you a couple of minutes, what did you do next?
Oh, well, I mean, that's the fictional part of this story. There were no SBOMs. We'd heard about that technology and we knew that we wanted to get it in place, but frankly, we haven't had the opportunity to prioritize that work. So it was 400 systems, and we knew right away that there were two really important systems. Our order management system was one of them. This one has been around since the beginning of the company. It's been well over a decade that this system has been running in production. But the order management system, it's the heart of our business. Our customers can't place orders. We can't fulfill those orders without the order management system. And then there was another application that we found, the e-commerce application. And of course, the e-commerce front end is how our customers interact with us. We knew that not only were both of these systems impacted, but they were also immediately the top of our priority list.
All right. So you identified these two applications. Mm-hmm. I think I'd like to start with talking about the e-commerce website, because I'm going to expect that it's going to be easier to tackle than the order management system. And I think an order starts there, right? So it seems like the next place we should go.
Yeah, that's a great place for us to start because, as you mentioned, that's where all the orders start from. That's how our customers interact with us. And it is our e-commerce website. It's kind of our crown jewel. It's only been running for a few years, but it follows all of the latest and greatest patterns in microservices architecture. And so, like I said, it's only a few years old. And a few years ago, our team, actually, we did not have any real experience building microservices architectures and applications that sort of followed that pattern. So we did the normal thing that any team would do. We hired in a bunch of consultants, and those consultants built us this amazing microservices application that we don't understand how it works. You see, we paid for functionality. We didn't pay for documentation or learning. So it was a little bit scary.
Well, I mean, I can totally understand that that trade-off really made sense at the time, right? You needed to improve. You didn't have the resources to do it. So you bring in a vendor. And I think so often bringing in a partner is an awesome solution. But as long as it's really in collaboration with the team, so then, yourself and the teams were upskilled after it and could keep that going and keep improving it. So I'm a little bit anxious to ask you this question, but do you have access to the code, or do you need to work with the vendor to make those updates?
Well, that is a reasonable question for sure. Luckily for us, the application runs on our infrastructure. Those consultants that we'd hired, they're long gone, but they did leave all of the code for us. And in fact, because it's a microservices application, it's made up of about 27 different services. Which also means we have about 27 different code repositories where all of the code exists. And we have full access to all of that. We don't really have to update the site very often, which also led us to a lot of anxiety because now we know we have to update that. So we had to go through all 27 repositories, figure out which repositories and which of those services were vulnerable. And then it was relatively easy to update the code. But updating the code was only the beginning of the journey. You see, then we had to go through and build all of the systems. And well, that took a long time. Because there was no automated build process. We needed manual builds and there wasn't much testing in place.
Okay. So if I've captured this correctly, you're only making updates to this application a couple times a year without any automated build process or testing. So I can only imagine the likelihood of failure is going to be high in this next portion of the story.
Exactly. We found one microservice that absolutely needed to be updated. We updated that microservice, we deployed it, and everything broke. It turns out all of these microservices are very tightly coupled with one another.
So how did you know everything was broken? And then how long did it take you to fix it?
Oh, yeah. Well, we knew everything was broken because we took the microservice that we just updated, we deployed it into our test environment, and 500, not the number of orders that we saw. Of course, that was the error code we received from the server. Things just started falling apart. So
that doesn't sound like a very fun weekend, Nathen.
No. Weekend. Wait, no. Amanda, sorry. Maybe I wasn't clear earlier. It took us the entire weekend to figure out which systems were vulnerable. We didn't even begin fixing anything until that Monday. And then with our 27 microservices, it took us all week to go through and update a microservice, deploy it, watch everything break, rinse, repeat. Eventually, though, by, around Friday morning, we had it ready. Everything was working in our test environment exactly as we expected.
So that's pretty good, right? So it took you about a week to get everything fixed.
Well, fixed, yes. But remember, Amanda, #NoDeploy Fridays. So we couldn't ship anything on Friday. We had to wait. And in fact, our internal team, we use an external body called a change approval board. Any change that we want to ship to production has to go to that change approval board. And of course, they only meet on Tuesdays. So while we were ready to ship the code on Friday, #NoDeploy Fridays, wait till Tuesday for the change approval board to meet. Oh, but it's okay because this was a security vulnerability, so we could expedite the change approval board to Monday. So we met with the change approval board on Monday, and guess what? They said, no, you cannot ship this. Every time you ship this particular application, everything breaks. We want you to do a little bit more due diligence with your testing and make sure that everything is working. Not only that, but isn't there a new Log4j vulnerability? How many of these vulnerabilities are there going to be? Maybe you should slow down and wait until new patches stop being released by the open source community. So just hold on. Well, I guess it was a good thing that they said that because in our additional testing, we did find more bugs. And of course, there were more releases, more updates to the Log4j application. So thank goodness for open source because they were able to quickly remediate all of the issues that popped up. But it just meant that we sat and waited for all of those issues and had to do a bunch of retesting and rebuilding. And eventually we were ready to ship this, and we released the e-commerce website on December 28th.
So I'm guessing that holiday season wasn't really great for the team. Just listening to this and walking through it and feeling like I'm experiencing it, I've got to ask, how was the team feeling? They must have been burning out.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. They were crispy, long hours, a lot of stress. Think about this. For over 20 days, we knew that our site was vulnerable to attack. So there was high stress, lots of uncertainty. People were burnt out. Absolutely.
So that was, we're talking a couple years ago. Since then, obviously there's been different and new CVEs. So when those are announced, does it kind of immediately cause the stress, or are they doing better?
Let's not talk about those new CVEs. We're still recovering from that moment back in December. No, but the truth is, yes, we've gotten a little bit better, but we're not quite there yet. To be quite honest, we still have a lot of room for growth.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing about the e-commerce site. I'm not sure I really want to go here next, but do you want to walk me through the order management system? I don't even know if I have enough whiteboards for this, but
all right,
let's give it a go.
E-commerce, modern, microservices, amazing. Order management system, it's the heart of our business, and it's been around for over a decade. But another difference here is that the order management system doesn't really follow a microservices pattern. It's more of a, let's call them macro services. There are 3 large components that make up our order management system. But the nice thing about the order management system is it's been under active development. In fact, the teams are always shipping new features to it. And over the past couple of years leading up to this vulnerability, the team had actually gone from quarterly releases down to monthly releases. So they're shipping much faster than they ever had, and they were on track to move towards weekly releases as well.
Wow. I will admit, I am absolutely surprised. So I guess, how did this go for them if they've already kind of been in this great pattern of updating?
Yeah, well, by Monday morning, we'd identified that all 3 components were impacted by the vulnerability. So we went to the first component, we updated it, our automated build kicked off, the tests ran, it was ready to deploy, and we shipped it out.
Wow. But that was one component, right? Didn't you say there was 3 components that needed to be updated?
Oh, yeah. There are 3 components, but the good news is that each component can be shipped independently. Unlike that e-commerce application where they were so tightly coupled, these components are actually pretty loosely coupled. So we fixed the first one. That was Monday. Tuesday came along. We went to fix the second one. We ran into some issues, but our tests all started failing. So we kind of hit a roadblock.
I feel like previously you've told me about this team. Isn't this the team that if they run into a broken build, that they will absolutely stop everything and prioritize it? Did they do that even in this really kind of high stress situation?
Absolutely. We'd actually split the team to work on each component. And the team that was working on the third component, when they saw the second component's build break, everyone stopped work and they all focused on this. And it was a good thing too, because it was a rather pernicious bug. It was elusive. It took the team most of the day to actually find the bug, fix it, and get things back going. So that was probably Wednesday afternoon before the second component was ready. Third component came along smoothly on Thursday. Everything was done by the end of the week.
Awesome. That is, I'm incredibly impressed, surprised. This was a turn in the story I was not expecting. And, as I'm thinking about it, especially your e-commerce team and how stressed they were and what they went through, with all the information you've given me, I think I might be able to help.
Oh, yeah? How do we help the website team have the same experience as the order management system team in the future? We want them to get better.
DORA.
The Explorer?
No, not the Explorer. Although I do have inside knowledge that inside of her backpack is the Accelerate book. Oh. But it's not that DORA.
Oh, not that DORA. Oh, okay. You must mean the Digital Operational Resilience Act, the legislation that's now live in the EU.
Right. That's also an important DORA, but not the one we're going to talk about today.
Oh, can we take a trip to Ohio? In Ohio, they have the designated outdoor refreshment area. Ohio sure knows how to party. We can have a beer.
Not today, Nathan. Today, we're going to talk about this DORA, DevOps Research and Assessment. This DORA is an ongoing research program that's been around for about 9 years. The program itself has been primarily funded through a number of different organizations over those years. And for a few of those years, the program was funded by a company called DORA. And that company was founded by Dr. Nicole Forsgren, Jez Humble, and Gene Kim. In 2018, DORA, the company, was acquired by Google Cloud. And the DORA team at Google Cloud has continued the research into the capabilities and the practices that predict the outcomes we consider central to DevOps. The research itself has remained platform and tool agnostic. And for me personally, and I think Nathen, you probably feel the same, it's really been an incredible opportunity and experience to work with the research team, not only for the learnings that come out each year in the report, but really understanding their practice, the oath, the ethics, and the passion that they bring to the work.
Absolutely. So like you said, there's this platform agnostic investigation or research into those capabilities. And what we can show through the research, we actually use the research to draw some predictive analysis or some predictive conclusions. So for example, we can say that these capabilities, these technical capabilities, process capabilities, and cultural capabilities, as teams improve their own capabilities, it's predictive that they will have better software delivery and operations performance. And then maybe even more importantly, that improved performance is predictive of better organizational performance and better commercial outcomes. Things like profitability and customer satisfaction. All of these things are really important.
So it's like a maturity model with a built-in roadmap.
No, please don't call it that. Look, context matters, Amanda, and you can't just take this as a maturity model or even as a roadmap. In fact, there is no well-paved, one-size-fits-all roadmap for any team to follow. It starts by understanding where are the constraints in your team and improving on those constraints.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because, we've learned over the years that delivery performance drives organizational performance, but in this year's report, we got additional context. We found out that, yes, delivery performance drives org performance, but only when operational performance is also high.
Yeah, and speaking of operational performance, we really look at that in terms of reliability practices. And one of the things that we saw is that teams must mature their reliability practices. Reliability itself is an elusive thing to measure because it's multifaceted. It's a way of assessing how well a team upholds their commitments to the customers that are using their services. So this year, we continued our explorations into reliability as a factor of software delivery and operations performance. And we looked at some of these particular practices and capabilities, such as regular reliability reviews and a team's ability and actual practice of reprioritizing work when reliability targets are missed. And one of the things that is really interesting that we saw is that, yes, reliability is required, but SRE investments or reliability practices take time. In fact, one of the things that we saw is over time, as a team begins to take on new practices, their actual overall performance might slip initially. We have to maintain a dedication to bringing on these new practices and capabilities until we reach that cross that point where they really start to have tremendous impact on our ability, in this case, to meet the demands and the promises that we've made to our customers.
Absolutely, Nathen. And I think that, when we talk about, again, that context matters, is that it's important that all of those within our organization understand the changes we're making there so that when things start to dip, that they understand why that's happening, but that we're on our way up. And I agree with you. And hopefully Dr. Nicole Forsgren wasn't listening to me when I said that terrible word maturity model. But while it's not a roadmap, the technical capabilities really do build on one another. Teams improve with them. And as they get better at these additional capabilities, they continue to improve. So, we looked at continuous delivery and version control, that they amplify each other's ability to promote high levels of software delivery performance. And when you combine continuous delivery, loosely coupled architecture, version control, and continuous integration, that these really foster, better software delivery performance, and it's greater than the sum of its parts. And we saw in the 2022 report that teams that made, higher than average use of those four capabilities had 3.8 times higher organizational performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that we looked at and is, pertinent for our story and basically for everyone out there is security. And how are teams embracing security controls, and what effect does that have? Is security slowing us down? Is it detrimental to our organizational performance? Well, we found some really good things that I want to share with you. First, we see that adoption of these security practices, sort of modern security practices, has already begun. Of course, there's lots of room for all of us to improve, but we are all now thinking about security. But you know, the number one predictor of teams that were going to be best at those security controls and those security capabilities? It was culture. Healthier cultures have a head start. It's not just the technology that matters. In fact, when it comes to security, it's how your teams work together and the culture that you have that matters more than anything else.
Right, Nathan. And so when you're saying healthier cultures, what you're really talking about is this generative culture, right? They're characterized by that high trust and that free flow of information. These performance-oriented cultures are more likely to establish those security practices than the lower trust organizational cultures there on the left side of this slide.
Absolutely. And security, beyond that, has some other unexpected benefits. So an expected benefit of better security practices, you'll be more secure. But perhaps an unexpected benefit is that your team will actually experience less burnout. And we can see that and predict that in our data. But we also found that there's a key integration point. In fact, we found that teams that are best at security also have strong capabilities when it comes to continuous integration. You know, automating your build process, running automated tests. This really helps drive security practices, and together they really drive organizational performance.
Absolutely. So here again is another example of how these capabilities really interact with each other and build upon one another. So when we compared continuous integration and security, we found that those teams that were above average on both, they had better overall organizational performance. So having good continuous integration and good security is really a strong driver of your organizational performance.
Absolutely. And when we go sort of back to our story here, there's a lot of reflections of this research right in the story that we told. Our order management team, yes, they have a larger sort of monolithic application, but the components are all loosely coupled. And they do follow the change approval board, but they interact with it much differently than the website team does. While the website team maybe has a more modern architecture, they're more tightly coupled. So there are different places for each one of these teams to really invest on improving their overall performance. And I just want to remind you, Amanda, in our story, we've only covered 2 of the about 400 systems that were impacted by that vulnerability. The truth is there was a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and spreadsheets, lots and lots of spreadsheets that went into getting us fully remediated.
Well, I love spreadsheets, but not maybe these type of spreadsheets. And I have to agree. Whenever I hear about change approval board, I'm always like, but in this case, it shows that it doesn't necessarily have to be, something that gets in your way. It can actually help a team, and that there's so many ways that you can improve your software delivery. And so, Nathan, can you walk us through some of those and how you can do that with this great diagram here?
Yeah, but we got to be quick. And also, I can't read that. Can you zoom in a little bit?
How about this?
All right. Yeah, that's better. So what we can see here through this capability map is that continuous integration and loosely coupled architecture drive those security practices. But so too does the Western organizational culture or the generative culture. These capabilities together drive lots of great outcomes that you want for your team, like less burnout. That's really good, but also improved software delivery performance, organizational performance, and in fact, better team satisfaction. So really, when you think about that map that's really difficult to read, that is not a roadmap, it is a capabilities map. And it is really about assessing how does your team do with each one of the capabilities on the left-hand side, finding those that are holding you back and making improvements there.
Absolutely. So, as we see here, there are so many potential things we could change. But if you take one thing away from this, it's that we can't boil the ocean, right? If we really want to affect change in our team, it can't happen overnight. And we just need to remember that it requires an investment, and we need to start slow. And that at some point, like we saw on that curve, we're going to get an inflection point where we're going to start to see that improvement. But it's not going to happen overnight, and we can't boil the ocean.
Absolutely. Oh, hey, Amanda, you know what we forgot to do before we wrap up? we forgot to introduce ourselves.
I know. I think Vilma did, but I mean, we don't want to let go of this great slide, right? Here we are. Quickly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathen Harvey. I'm a developer advocate here for DORA and for Google Cloud.
And I'm Amanda Lewis, also a developer advocate here with DORA at Google Cloud.
We hope that you've learned a lot today, and we really want to invite you to continue this conversation with us. Please join our DORA community of practice at dora.community. In fact, tomorrow we actually have a conversation, a live conversation with Dr. Nicole Forsgren, who helped start the DORA research program. She and I are going to be talking about taking DORA to space.
Yes, and I do encourage you, if you're unable to attend in person tomorrow at 3 p.m., we will record this beginning part, Nicole's presentation, and please do join the group. We can't do this alone. We need the community, all of us, to get together. And so there's great conversations going on asynchronously, and then we have really great conversations with the community a few times a month. So please join us. We would love to have your voice in this discussion.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. And please, you can download your own copy of the State of DevOps report there. And hey, Amanda, I'm feeling a little bit down. Can you pass me back my coffee? Because I need that caffeine boost.
Here you go. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Amanda and Nathen. I don't know where to start. That was a roller coaster of emotions. Someone stated, this is a quote from the audience in the chat, "This story is giving me anxiety, so perhaps for the next time you should put a warning in the start that you're not responsible, that if people feel anxiety, well, that can happen." But there was a comment on that the person felt relieved at some point, so not ending on anxiety. So that's great.
But that is great feedback.
Maybe for Nathen, are you okay? Some of the experiences with Log4Shell were quite tough, so are you doing good? All right, but overall, people enjoyed this story very much. They stated in the chat that was great and seemed to enjoy. There were some comments that no testing in place, oh shame. And then also that test automation doesn't help, or manual testing doesn't help, they're too deep and things like that. But yeah, storytelling is powerful.
Yeah, it must have been so traumatic for Nathen. He left us.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I think he's coming back. He needed a moment.
Oh yeah, I can let him
right.
Yeah, Nathen, we lost you. I hope you're okay.
Yeah, did you need a minute? You were too, you had to take a little walk.
I needed a minute to recover from all of that stress.
Oh yeah, we get you. Glad you're back. But we do have some questions in the Q&A, so I will read them out loud. Okay, privacy by design is important, but zero trust models can be detrimental to organizational resilience. How can security be balanced against the need for teams to fix fast, for example, in the event of a major incident without delays?
Yeah, so my advice there is that it takes practice. And I guess I have two pieces of advice. One, it takes practice. We have to practice being able to move quickly. And in fact, one of the things that the research shows us is that there is not a trade-off between throughput or velocity and stability. In fact, what we see year in and year out is that these two things move together. The teams that are performing best are both fast and stable and safe. And the teams that are performing poorly perform poorly against all of those criteria as well. The other piece to this, though, is that when you think back to the story, it turns out that the way that you remediate a security vulnerability is the same. You need the same sort of capabilities or muscles, if you will, that you need to ship a new feature. If you want to ship a new feature, that feature should be in version control. There should be an automated build. There should be some testing that happens. There should be an automated pipeline that takes that change through to production. When you want to remediate a security vulnerability, same thing. It should be in version control, an automated build, continuous testing, a pipeline, and so forth. And so I think that it really takes practice and building trust. And you have to do that over time through consistent actions. That's why we call it practice. You're doing it day in and day out. And making sure that you and your teams have room to improve how you're doing things on a daily basis.
And I think additionally to that, to build that trust, when we think about, when we say the word team, is that we're actually thinking about that application or service, and your security, team is a part of that broader team. So starting to have those discussions, bringing them in and getting everybody a little bit closer to what your outcomes are, make those discussions and those changes a lot easier when you go to implement them.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Great answer. Then the second one was, how would you suggest starting the journey? Oftentimes companies either start at too big and end up with something half working, or too small and the difference is I can't say that. You get what I was
I can't do it. We'll let Nathen say the word.
Yeah, my English just stumbled.
It's negligible.
Yes, thank you. For a Finnish woman.
Since
I've said the word, Amanda, do you want to take the first crack at this answer?
So I'd recommend, I guess, just as I was saying with the security, is it starts with a conversation and getting together with all of those individuals that are part of your application or service and talking through, if we're going to commit a small piece of code, what does that look like? How do we get through the system? And looking at, we didn't today talk about those 4 key metrics that have come out of the DORA research, but you can use the quick check that's available through the DORA research to kind of give a baseline and see where you are today, and then use the research to identify what is that small thing that we can make change. And I agree that sometimes we start too small, but I think even then, go through that, have some learnings, and take that next step. And so Nathen, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, plus one to all of that. And then in addition to that, I think that it really is important that as you start with a team, you then start building a community of practice around this and start taking that work to other teams. I agree with the question. If you try to change or boil the entire ocean, you're going to fail. But if you can't change one team, you'll have no hope of changing the entire organization. So start with a team, build up those practices and lessons, and then make sure that you're sharing those lessons across the entire organization.
And as for some shameless promotion, also join the DORA community. I have learned so much in the last 6 months about this, and you're not alone. And so getting started, you're going to hear lots of great ideas about different ways to approach that. So I encourage you to join the community as well. And
Amanda, you mentioned the quick check, so I'm throwing a link to that into the chat. And while I'm there, I'll throw in a link to the DORA community and hope to see you all there as well.
Thank you very much. We enjoyed a lot and hope to see you maybe next year or some other event. Or we can join the DORA and see you there.
Yes. See us tomorrow. All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. This has been fantastic.
Hi, we're from EFICode, the driving force behind the DevOps conference.
Regardless of where you are on your DevOps journey, there's always the next step. With our experience in successful DevOps transformations, we're excited to support you in taking the next step.
Find us at eficode.com and have an amazing time watching the talks at the DevOps conference.